Okay, good morning everyone. Chazak, Baruch, thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning as we are studying together Perashat Yitro, and I hope everyone again enjoyed their winter session as we are recharged and ready for our long stretch as we head now into a 2-month dive till our next holiday, till Purim, as we have double Adar this year. We have an extra month because the holidays are very early, so we need to delay 1 month so that Pesach falls out in the spring. So that means we're going to have hopefully better weather in Pesach, but that also means that we now have 2 months until Purim that we get to really study and enjoy the beautiful lessons of the Perashah. And here we go as we take a deep dive again into the Ora Hayim as we are studying together this year, the beautiful words of the Ora Hayim HaKadosh together. So here we go. Let's begin. The Ora Hayim, again, as we're studying this year, a commentary written 400 or 500 years ago on the Perashat HaShavua. Our Perashah, my friends, is called Perashat Yitro. Yitro, let's read the Pesukim. And let's see what the Ora Hayim has for us. Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midian Hoten Moshe. The Pasuk tells us that Yitro, who is the Kohen Midian, okay? What does that mean, Kohen Midian? He's the priest of Midian. He's Choten Moshe. He's also the father-in-law of Moshe. He heard, Kol Asher Asa Elohim LeMoshe ULYisrael Amo. He heard everything that God did to Moshe and everything that God did to his people, Israel. Okay, so that's our Perashah. The name of the Perashah is Yitro, taken right here from the opening Pasuk, that Yitro heard everything that Hashem did to Moshe and to the Jewish people. Okay, very nice. What did he hear? Ki hotzi Adonai et Yisrael Mizrahi. And he heard that God took them out of Egypt. Vayikach Yitro choter Moshe. So he took Tzipora. Who is Tzipora? Eshet Moshe, the wife of Moshe. Ahar shiluheha, after she was sent away, he brought Tzipora ve'et shnei banei and her 2 sons, Gereshom and Eliezer. He brought them so that they could be reunited with their family, with their father, with Moshe. He brought them out to the desert. So here we have a beautiful family reunion of Moshe reuniting with his kids, his wife, and his father-in-law. Okay? I'll leave that up to you if it's fortunately or unfortunately. But his father-in-law, yes, is coming to greet him in the desert. Okay? Very nice. So, like a very, very simple pasuk, straightforward. Today's class, by the way, is sponsored, dedicated for the Refuah Shlema, for the success of all of Am Yisrael. B'ezrat Hashem, Refuah Shlema. All the learning, all the inspiration, all the growth should be for all of the Jewish people. Chazak Baruch to our sponsor. Hashem should bless you and your family with all the amazing blessings of health, happiness, success. Nachat, bracha, you should see your family growing the beautiful way that you are. Amen. Okay, so what is the Ora Hayim going to add over here? Well, he begins with a very interesting question. The halacha is, I don't know if you know this halacha, but there is a halacha that it's found in the Gemara in Masechet Baba Metzia. Okay, please open to Baba Metzia, page 58b. The Gemara says over there's a halacha over here, I don't know if you know this one. You're not allowed to remind somebody of their past. Okay? That means you're not allowed to tell someone, remember when we were in high school? I can't believe it. Look at you. You're all religious now. Remember what you used to do on Saturday nights in high school? Remember what you did when we went away in Acapulco? You're not allowed to tell that to someone. You're not allowed to remind someone of their past. Make them feel bad. Now the guy is much better. The person's honest. Imagine a person used to be a crook and now they're honest. You can't tell them, oh my gosh, look at you, you're so straight. Even your accountant is all the taxes. You came a long way. I remember when you were younger, you did a lot of shady things. Not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to remind someone of their past. Okay? It's a halacha. So the Ora Hayim therefore asks a question. Tzarich ladat, we have to understand, le'eze inyan yahaso beyehus kohen Midian. How are you now considering, why are you telling me that Yitro is Kohen Midian? You're referring him to him as the priest. What does priest mean? Priest means clergy. He's idolatry. He is the priest of Midian, right? En zo ma'ala, that's not a virtue. Ela yerida, that's a shortcoming. That's negative. Why are you describing Yitro in a negative way? It's not a nice thing. Usually if Perashah is named after the guy, he's a good guy, he's doing something very nice over here. He's coming to meet the Jewish people in the desert. You would praise him. But instead of praising him, you end up, imagine a guy gets married. Under the chuppah, what's the rabbi's job? The rabbi's job under the chuppah, rabbi says, hopefully short speech, right? About the chatan and kala. Sometimes the rabbis get carried away. Who knows? They speak for a long time. But keep it tight, keep it short, keep it sweet. And the goal of the speech is not divrei Torah. You're not here to give people Parashat HaShavua, Ora Hayim, goods on the Parashah. That's not your goal. If you're speaking under the chuppah, you're there to praise the chatan and the kala, the families, right? That's what no one wants to hear. Gematria. No one wants to hear divrei Torah, chidushim. According to the Rav Akiva Eger, right? The wedding, the ring. You're not here to do that, right? You're here to praise the chatan and the kala. That everyone knows. Everyone knows that's what you're doing under the chuppah. Imagine the rabbi gets up and as he's praising the chatan and the kala, he says, call the guy Joey. Joey, it's amazing seeing you here. With this beautiful girl. What a good family you married into. And, Joey, you really came a long way. Wow. I would have never thought. Look at you. Wow, just last year, what you were doing. Psh. And now, Joey, wow. Mazal tov, really. I would have never thought. If I had to bet, I would never put money on the fact that you would be here, settle down with a Jewish girl. Like, what are you doing? Condescending, you're embarrassing the guy on his wedding day. You came a really long way, you really grew, you were in rehab, and you were filled with just anger, and now look at you, doesn't sound right. You're not supposed to do that at the guy's wedding day. Over here, you're praising Yitro, but you're telling me bad things about him, that he's Kohen Midian. So that's the Ora Hayim's question. And we know the rule that you're not supposed to mention a person's shortcomings from earlier, you can't recall earlier years' deeds of unworthiness. So, and this is brought down in the Rambam. You shouldn't remind a person of his past. You shouldn't remind a person of what he did. So what's going on over here? Ve'ulai, possibly, answers the Ora Hayim. Maybe we're actually praising him. We're praising him. It's not derogatory. Let me tell you why. When we call the guy Kohen Midian, when you call him the priest, Mr. Atheist, when you're calling him an atheist, or he was an atheist, Loma, that is a praise. Shehagam shehayu lo shtei b'chinot haremuzot beKohen Midian. Even though this man Yitro, he was a Kohen Midian, which indicates two things. Number one, Heyoto Rosh LeMidian. That means, first of all, he's an important guy. Forget religion 1 second. Just politically, he was important. Ve'aduk, number two, La'avodah Zarah. Number two, he was religiously an important guy. He was filled with idolatry. So telling you that he's Kohen Midian is two things. Number one, he was important politically. Number two, he's important religiously. And the Torah is over here trying to tell us, Afal Pikin, nonetheless, Asa Shnei Dvarim Negdiyim Ve'Hefichim B'Shnei HaPratim. Nonetheless, he did now things that were in direct contrast to these two facets of his identity. So his actions, and we're about to show what these two things are, but what he's about to do is actually worthy of praise precisely because he's Kohen Midian. What the Torah over here is trying to do is contrast what he's about to do to who he was. And that is something that is praiseworthy. When I show you a guy that he became very successful, I say, yeah, but the guy used to be he wasn't always like that. He didn't have money for college. The guy was he had addictions, he had things. Look how far he came. So that you're saying in a praiseworthy way. That's to contrast how his success is versus how low he was. That is something that's very, very worth emulating. That's actually a praise. That's a bigger praise. When I show you a guy who's successful, and I tell you a story about athlete, right? Michael Jordan. And I show you, but Michael Jordan in high school, he didn't make the basketball team. That's not putting him down. That's actually praising him even more. by sometimes showing how low someone once was is actually giving them even a greater compliment. And that's what the Torah is trying to do. Keneged heyoto gadol, by telling you that Moshe over here is very big politically in Midian. Amar Hoten Moshe. So over here, look at this. Look how he reads the pasuk. Unbelievable. Vayishma Yitro. Yitro heard. Who is Yitro? Kohen Midian. He's the priest of Midian. Choten Moshe, and he's the father-in-law of Moshe. You would think those are just two descriptions. Says the Ora Hayim, no. He's telling you that he actually preferred the title Choten Moshe. And what does that mean, Choten Moshe, the father-in-law of Moshe? That means Shenitchaten le'adam. Think about this. Here is this great man, Kohen Midian. Here is this very important guy. He's got, politically, status. And yet, Nitchaten le'adam shelo nod'a lo gdula adayin. Who did he let his daughter Tzipora marry? Who does his daughter marry? Married? Nobody. Who is this guy? Moshe? What kind of name is that? Never heard of him. Where does he work for? Which company? Who is his father? Who was Moshe? Moshe was a nobody at the time. He was a fugitive. He ran away at 20 years old for killing somebody. He was not even from here. He's not from Midian. He's from Egypt. He's Egyptian. Get him out of here. What are you doing here? Yitro, you're going to let your daughter, Tzipora, you're a very important guy. You could get any guy you want for your daughter. And now you're letting this random guy, Moshe, take your beautiful princess, who you raised your whole life, Tzipora, your oldest daughter. Why would Yitro do that? So that's actually a praise. Kohen Midian! Even though he was the Kohen of Midian, he didn't let status get in the way. He didn't let... Sometimes we allow superficial things to cloud our judgment of life. How many times in a marriage we allow external things to make the decision? We say no to somebody because they don't have the last name. We say no because what will the wedding look like? We say no because what sect of the community do they part of? We say no because what shul do they pray in, right? We say no to things that are so superficial, that don't matter. And there are really, really good people out there, but some people don't give them a chance because of the outside, unimportant things. And really, much more important than name, right? Much more important than the last name, right? These things. What's his first name? Who's the guy? What are they? What are the midot? And Yitro knew this. Nitchaten le'adam shelo nod'a lo gdula adayin. Moshe had no status. V'davar ze yakpidu alav. And this is usually something that people are very particular about. When you're very important, if you're president, if you're in politics, if you're a governor, your daughter marries someone else who's very important. Especially when he's so unique. When it's Yitro, he's the head guy, he's the ruler. You're going to give your daughter to Moses? Who's Moses? Who is he? Right? But he did this. Why? Because he saw Moshe was a real guy. He saw Moshe was a good character. He saw Moshe had good midot. Right? He didn't care that he's not going to have a Sha'arei Tzion wedding. Okay, it won't be a Sha'arei Tzion wedding. Who cares about that? How many people are so focused on the wedding that it trumps even what the marriage will look like? They focus more on the wedding than the marriage. They'll take someone who's maybe average because it's going to come with a beautiful, maybe destination wedding. But you're average. What do you care about the wedding? You should care more about the marriage. What will the marriage look like? What will it be for the next 60, 70, 80 years? You focused on 4 hours? The name, it's the glitter, it's all of the pomp. It looks nice to the eyes of everyone else. And Yitro didn't say that. Yitro didn't allow superficial things to cloud his judgment. He didn't say, who is this guy, Moshe, nobody knows him. He went for the real deal. And really, Moshe, if you think about it superficially, is not impressive. Let's be honest, not impressive. Who was Moshe? At 80, who was he? 79. He had a stutter. Okay, the guy couldn't talk well. The guy is a fugitive. He's a shepherd. Okay, he's what is he? What does he do? He's sleeping at wells. The guy was sleeping at a well. Again, I don't mean to denigrate Moshe. I'm just trying to give you a little bit perspective. What would you look at it at the time, in real time? It's always nice in hindsight. Every girl today, she wants to marry Rav Moshe Feinstein, at 90, when he was perfect. Girls don't realize that boys at 20 are not going to be Rav Moshe Feinstein at 90. Rav Moshe Feinstein at 90 wasn't Rav Moshe Feinstein at 20. You know what I mean? You got to realize the guy you're going to get is going to have flaws. You want to marry a perfect guy at 20? You expect the guy to be perfect at 20, 25, 30? You have to work your whole life to get to perfection. No one reaches perfection, but you got to realize that people have flaws. And how many people today, they throw away someone because of flaws? Having a flaw, depends what kind, depends, are they working on it, right? Just because a guy has something, it doesn't mean you throw it away. But today everyone wants perfection. Who would marry Moshe? Anyone in the community would marry Moshe? The guy was old, okay? He was a bachelor, old man, single. He didn't have money. I don't know, he didn't have money. He wasn't rich. We know he got rich later from the Luchot. He wasn't rich. He didn't have family with him. He was alone, literally. The guy was a loner. His whole family alone was there. He had stutter. He didn't speak well. Who was Moshe? Think about it from, Yitro's perspective. It's a leap of faith. God didn't speak to Moshe yet. Moshe wasn't a prophet. He was still a nobody. But Yitro didn't allow superficial things to make that decision. Who you marry, it's not about, it's not about people say, I want to marry someone, that they're this, and they're kolel. Doesn't matter if you, by the way, what level of religion. There's always superficial things. But nothing's more important than midot. Good character. You have a guy who on the outside looks like he's the most amazing learner. Yeah, he finished Shas at 15. Okay. Doesn't mean he's a good guy. Doesn't mean he's a good guy. Unfortunately, today, good learner and good guy is not synonymous. When Rav Yisrael Salanter was suggested to marry, I believe, the granddaughter of Rav Chaim Ozer. Rav Chaim Ozer, I apologize if I got the names wrong, but I think those are the names. Not Rav Salanter, Rav Dessler. So Rav Chaim Ozer was asked by his son, should I allow my daughter to marry this boy? He's a very big learner. And Rav Chaim Ozer, he quoted the pasuk. The pasuk says, when it comes to a marriage, Et biti natati leish hazeh. I allow my daughter to marry this man. And Rav Chaim Ozer said in a letter to his son, first requirement when you're looking for marriage, ish. He's got to be a mensch. He's got to be a good person. Then we'll look into, is he a good learner? But first thing, he's got to be a good person. If he's a good person, then it's good. Of course, Rav Dessler, amazing ish. Greatest person, right? But you got to have, first thing is first. First thing, you got to have good midot. That's the first step in life, my friends. And again, in life, sometimes we don't remember that. We look for superficial things. We look for external things. We're more worried about our reputation. What people say. Yitro didn't care about that. And that's the pasuk. Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midian. Yitro, who was Kohen Midian, he was a very important guy. He was, wow, what a Kohen this guy was. Even though he was very important. Look who he was. He was Choten Moshe. He allowed his daughter to marry Moshe. Very important guy. Let his daughter marry nobody. Why? It shows you about Yitro. It shows you that he's a smart man. It shows you it's his praise. It is a praise. To call the guy Kohen Midian is praiseworthy. So although he was so important, he still didn't allow that to cloud who his daughter married. Today, if your daughter is right, if you're an important guy, my daughter's got to marry someone who's going to be making, this amount of digits, and he's going to be providing her with a house on this block, and it's going to be in this area, and vacation, and this amount of cars, and help, and those are all superficial. Yitro allowed his daughter, who he was the most important guy, but who did he take? He took a nobody. That is to Yitro's praise. Okay? That's all one side of the equation. That's on the Kohen Midian politically side. But then now there's a whole other side. Also, Kohen Midian means religiously he was a priest. Secondly, from the fact that he was attached to idolatry, which means Kohen, literally priest. So besides politically, he was also religiously a priest. So, Amar Katuv, so now the Pasuk's telling us, number 2. So praise number 1 is that he was Choten Moshe. That he allowed his daughter to marry a nobody like Moshe. And, by the way, Moshe never forgot that. Moshe appreciated that. If you remember when God told Moshe to go free the Jewish people, back in Parashat Shemot, Moshe didn't go straight to redeem the Jewish people. After he agreed to go, which by the way itself was a whole argument with God for 7 days, but even after he agreed to go, he had to go back. It says he went back to Midian and he had to get permission from his father-in-law to go. He asked his father-in-law, is it okay with you if I leave? What? What are you asking the guy? He asked, go, God send you, man. Just go. Don't ask. Just tell him. I'm not asking you, I'm just telling you, okay? I'm leaving. No, Moshe asked, can I leave? Look at what's called in Hebrew, hakarat hatov. Appreciation. Moshe never forgot that favor. You took me when I was a nobody. How could I forget that? Even though now he's a somebody. Now he's more important than his father-in-law. Now he made money. Now he's rich. Now he's successful. Now he's popular. Now he's this. Now he's that. You can never forget what your father-in-law did for you. This is a favor Moshe never forgot. And for the rest of time, he was appreciative. He went to ask him permission to leave, even though God sent him. That's wild. Think about that for a second. That is amazing. That's appreciation. So that's all one side of the equation. And then the other side is that he also was a religiously important guy. He was Kohen. And corresponding to this, that's the next pasuk. Ata yadati, not the next pasuk, it's in a few psukim, where he says, Ata yadati ki gadol Adonai mikol ha'elohim. Now I know, says Yitro, that God is greater than any God. Now, for a regular average guy to say God's the greatest wouldn't be so impressive. That's not something that you should write in the Torah. You should have a whole parasha that this man Yitro recognized God. Okay, many people recognize God. What was so impressive? You know why it's so impressive? It's because the guy was Kohen Midian. That's Kohen Ummah Ahad Me'u Bahim. The guy was the biggest atheist or polytheist. The guy believed in so many gods. He studied every religion. The biggest theologist out there. He studied so much about comparative religion and everything. That's impressive. Imagine I tell you Richard Dawkins believes in God. What? That's not possible. That's not, how did that happen? Richard Dawkins, are you sure? Yes. It's a guy like that. Stephen Hawking. What? These guys believe in God? Yes. That's impressive. Because they're the biggest atheist. So you tell me now that they believe in God? That's very impressive. That's much more impressive than if a regular guy who didn't write books or give courses on atheism, that they believe in God. Much bigger. Because that's what the Pasuk is saying. You're telling me a guy like Yitro, who was Kohen Midian, that he says, Ata yadati. A guy like him says, I believe in God. That's the guy. The guy knows what he's talking about. He studied the other side. He saw the other side. He knows what it's like. He was a heavy idolater. And now he's on the right side. He saw the light. That's very impressive. You know, if you have a rabbi who was born a rabbi, you know, day one, he was learning from 1 year old, and he never went to, he never went to any, things. He never did any bad things in his life. Okay, very nice. Chazak Baruch. But that's not as impressive as if you have someone who, Rabbi Uri Zohar, alav shalom. The guy was an icon. The guy was a celebrity, actor. You tell me a guy like that became a rabbi. So, wow. that's very impressionable. That's something that I can relate to. I also enjoy, Hollywood and I don't know those things. And to tell me that he became a rabbi, he knows what he's talking about. Because he saw both sides. I'd rather trust someone like him about Torah than someone else. Shlomo HaMelech, who's trying to convince us about the futilities of life, about physical things. Shlomo HaMelech writes in his book, I saw it all. I saw it. I saw money. I saw cars. I saw women. I saw everything. And I'm telling you, Hevel Havalim. So do you have credentials? Yeah, I listen to what you have to say. Right? You open the opening line of Kohelet. Kohelet is one of the books of Tanakh, and it's one of the 5 Megillot of Tanakh, and it begins Divrei Kohelet ben David Melech Birushalayim, the words of Kohelet ben David, king of Jerusalem. By the way, look at this opening sentence of the book. Very arrogant, no? Imagine you wrote a book. You know who I am? I am Kohelet, the son of David, a king of Jerusalem. Whoa. A little bit, take it easy. A little too much self-flex over there. But the answer is, he's coming to tell you that this world is empty, that this world is zero. In order for his words to have any credence, he has to establish that he is a somebody. And the bigger of a somebody you are, then the more important that statement is. And he begins and says, by the way, you know who I am? Before I tell you what I'm about to tell you, let me first tell you who I am. About the author. Let me tell you about the author. I'm Kohelet. Kohelet, and you say, okay, who's Kohelet? What does he know? Where does he come from? Oh, I came from David. David is David, Melech Israel. Even bigger. And by the way, not just Ben David. Who was David? Melech Birushalayim. He was a king, and he wasn't just a king, he was a king of Jerusalem, the capital of the world. That's who I am. So I've seen it all, I've been everywhere, I've been to all the parties, I've rubbed shoulders with who's and all the big people, okay? And let me tell you now my next sentence. Hevel Havalim Amar Kohelet. It's all empty, it's all nonsense. And Shlomo realizes that before he tells you that, he has to first establish his credence. What right do you have to say that? What do you know about anything about life? What do you know? Do you know about money? Do you know about parties? Do you know about the good life? Did you have a vacation? Did you fly private? Did you go to the moon yet? Who are you? Where'd you go? And Shlomo says, oh, I've seen it all. I'm Kohelet, Ben David, Melech, Yerushalayim. I'm all of those. And therefore I have the right to say what I'm about to say, that this world is nothing. This world is empty. Because I've been there. I've seen it. If he was a nobody, then good job, Chazak Baruch. Easy for a poor guy to say, don't worry about money and cars. You never tried a nice car. You never went to a nice party. Go, and then you'll change your mind. So Shlomo HaMelech says, no, I've been to all of them. I threw them all, the Great Gatsby. And I'm telling you, it's all nonsense. So over here, Yitro, for him to say that God's the greatest, who are you? What do you know about gods? Pasuk says, he knows. Kohen Midian. He knows about gods. He was the biggest idolater of the time. He was Kohen Midian. He was the priest. He was the pope. He was the biggest guy. And he's saying, Ata yadati, ki gadol Adonai mikol Elohim. That's impressive. Okay? That is something that's worth writing. So that is the Ora Hayim's opening idea of this beautiful pasuk. O ta'am umro Kohen Midian. And not only that, but answer number 2 of why it says Kohen Midian, not only to tell you that it's, impressive that he was politically a very big somebody and he took a nobody for his daughter, or that he was very important religiously and he still ended up coming to Judaism, monotheism. But another answer, באמצעות כן השיג לדעת כל אשר עשה אלוהים. The reason Yitro heard everything that happened just now, because what Yitro does is he leaves everything, he drops it all, and he comes to join the Jewish people in the desert. And the reason that he heard everything was because he was Kohen Midian. Because he was so important, the important people have more access to news than the unimportant people. Okay? The more important people get the real news. Unfortunately, today we are victims, and today you got to be a victim of something, right? So it's good to be a victim today. So you could all wave the victim flag. But today we're all victims, unfortunately, of getting wrong news, misinformation, disinformation, things that we get lied to about. We don't always get the truth, whether it's about medicine or it's about politics. You know, how many people are getting fed wrong news today in politics? We're seeing what's going on in Israel. And you speak to people. And I lived in Israel, I've been to Israel, you've been to Israel, so you know what's going on. But there are people that have no idea where Israel is on a map. If you ask them to point it out, they have no idea. So all they're watching, all the information is from TikTok and fake news, things like that, run by the Chinese, and they're getting all the lies. They don't know the truth. A guy like that is he's just a product of lies. They don't get the real news. So Yitro got the real news because he's an important guy. He got the real access. So this is all the first words, Kohen Midian. Okay. What do you hear? He heard it. Kol asher asa Elohim leMoshe u'Yisrael amo. He heard everything that God did to Moshe and to the Jewish people. So here are two things, my friends. What God did to Moshe and what God did to the Jewish people. What is going on over here? Gam ze yagid shebach ha'ish. This is also telling you the praise of Yitro. He investigated to find out all the details. That means that he loves the Jewish people. He wanted to hear every detail about how they got out. That shows love. Why? Because if someone hates someone, if you hate someone, you will be repulsed when you're told his praiseworthy deeds. Right? If you're told about his good fortune. If there's someone that you don't like, and they tell you, this guy made a lot of money in COVID, if you don't like him, you're not going to want to hear the details. You're going to change the conversation. You don't want to hear about your enemy's good fortune. So from the fact that Yitro says, really, tell me more, right? Tell me more, right? Like, what happened? Tell me. From the fact that he wants to hear more means he's your friend. If you're interested in somebody, that means that you like them. If you don't want to hear more about their good fortune, that means you don't like them. Okay? I mean, if we love our spouse, we want to hear about the good things that happen in the day. Tell me more. Oh, beautiful. We don't say, oh, very nice, and then just end the conversation. Oh, yeah, okay, very nice, beautiful. Okay, good to hear. No, tell me more. That's what someone who loves someone wants to hear. Tell me more about your good day. Tell me more. And Yitro over here, he loves the Jewish people, and therefore he left everything to hear more. Tell me more about what happened. Okay. Look at this over here. We have to ask another question. The pasuk tells us that he heard everything that God did. Now let me ask you, the listener, what does everything that God did include? What does it entail? What does it encompass? What does it include? What did everything he did? Right? If I just stopped here and I said, Yitro heard everything that God did for the Jewish people, what would that include? He heard about what? What did God do? Obviously, he heard about Yetziat Mitzrayim, right? So why does the pasuk have to go on and say that he took them out of Egypt? That's for sure. Already you told me that. So he explains as follows. Yitro knew how impossible it was to get out of Egypt. Our rabbis tell us, Asirei Mitzrayim lo pethu me'olam. No one ever left Egypt. It was like Azkaban prison in Harry Potter. Okay? No one left. Once you were in, you never left Mitzrayim. You were there for life. No one left. Now, Yitro, not only that, but he was Ehad miyoatzei Paro. He was one of Paro's advisors. Ubaki b'Mitzrayim. He knew everything about Egypt. He knew about the security. He knew how tight it was. You couldn't get out of there. He was a professional. He was very knowledgeable. Hagam sheishma ki yotzi. And therefore, it wouldn't help for him to hear that they left. So what if they left? Lo yatzdik hayetziah belabo. He still wouldn't believe it. I don't believe it. Impossible. Therefore, it says, Vayishma Yitro et kol asher asa. Oh, so the pasuk says that Yitro heard everything that God did. What do you mean everything that God did? Perush kol haniflaot ve'anoraot. It means everything that he did through the prophet Moshe. That's right, the signs, the snake, and everything. Ve'haniflaot, and also the miracles that he did, whether it's b'rdiyat mahazik bam, the makot, the sea. So Yitro heard about the Exodus, but it wouldn't be enough to tell us that, because if I just told you Yitro heard about the Exodus, he wouldn't believe it. There's no way. Come on, they couldn't leave. So he first had to hear about Kol asher asa Hashem Moshe leYisrael leMoshe. He had to hear about everything that God did through Moshe by the miracles that he did as a prophet to prove his prophecy. And also he heard about all the other miracles of the Makot and the splitting of the sea. And with those two combined, it confirmed that they left. Now he knew that they actually did leave. If he just heard that they left alone, he said it wouldn't have been enough. Because without the miracles, even if they left, first of all, lo ya'amin, he wouldn't believe it. V'im ya'amin, and even if you leave it, lo yiftach, it's not going to stay, it's not going to last, right? They're going to chase them. And even if they chase them and it doesn't work the first time, they're going to chase them again. So what confirmed the fact that they for sure are free is the fact that he heard everything else that surrounded the Exodus. Exodus alone would not have been enough to convince Yitro to come and join the Jewish people. Okay, so the reason Yitro comes out and joins is because he was confident that the Exodus is absolute. And it's full freedom, full-fledged. Okay, and how do you know it's full-fledged? Et kol asher asa, everything else that was included in the Exodus. Wow, so that's beautiful stuff over here. Now some say, what else did he hear? He heard about Amalek. Besides for splitting the sea, he also heard about Amalek. And by the way, right before this pasuk, Vayishma Yitro, the last pasuk spoke about Amalek. That was the ending of last week's parasha. So Vayishma now makes a lot of sense. So now, according to that opinion, even the miracles weren't enough to confirm the rumor that they left. Why? You know, a person could say the reason God did these miracles is because Paro is such a wicked person. He's so disrespectful, this guy Paro. No respect. That's why God allowed this to happen. Someone like Paro, who went against God outright, for sure God's going to do that. But that God won't do that to another nation. How do you know that the Jews are going to survive in the desert? Maybe when they get to another nation that's not as wicked as Egypt, God won't defend them. God won't back them. And therefore, when he heard about another nation, not only Paro, but even Amalek, that even there we defeated, so Yitro said, okay, so I really see now that God's behind these Jewish people. And when he heard all of that, he saw that Hashem loves us, and then he left everything and came to join us. Okay? Another idea is when it says that he took us out of Egypt. The reason it's telling us that he took us out of Egypt, going back to answer that question, if it tells me that he heard about everything, why does it also have to specify that he heard about our exodus from Egypt? That's included in everything. To tell me right after this, what does it say? It says that Yitro heard, and what did he do? He didn't just join the Jewish people. He brought Tzipporah and her two sons to join Moshe. What do you have to bring them for? Al derech omram, based on what our rabbis told us. Amar Yitro leMoshe, lama ata molich eshtecha. Yitro, right before Moshe left to go free the Jewish people, he started taking his wife and kids. And his phone was, where are we going? He said, I told you. I asked you permission. I'm going to free the Jewish people. So Yitro said, okay, go alone. You want to take your wife and your kids back into the prison? Amar lo, right? Atidin. Amar Yitro Moshe, lama ata molich eshtecha. He said, why are you going to take your children to a place where people are slaves? They're trying to leave and you're taking more in? It's a good argument. What did Moshe say back? Amar lo, Moshe said, Atidin Yisrael lekabel Torah al Har Sinai. Moshe said, but the Jewish people are going to receive the Torah on Har Sinai. Velo yiyu banai bichlal. My children shouldn't be there on Har Sinai. Which is an amazing thing to think about. Which Jews weren't present at Har Sinai? Every Jew was there. But actually, Tzipporah, Moshe's own wife, and his own 2 sons were not there. They were in Midian. And this is Moshe's concern. I got to take them because when we leave, they're going to receive the Torah. I want my kids to see that. I want my kids to be present at Har Sinai. Amar lo, lech leshalom. So Yitro said, okay, go in peace. And Or HaHaim understands that to mean that Yitro promised him that he'll bring them. Yitro promised Moshe that he will bring his kids right after they leave. And therefore the Pasuk says, Vayishma. You know what Yitro heard? Ki hotzi. He heard that they're out. And now that they're free, he had to keep his promise. Lekayem dvaro. He had to keep his promise. He brought the wife and the 2 sons to make sure that they are present at Har Sinai. This is all only if you say the opinion that they got there before Matan Torah. Believe it or not, there is an opinion that the Jewish people, that Yitro brought his daughter and his 2 grandsons, he brought them only after Kabbalat HaTorah. According to that opinion, I mean, it's wild to think that Moshe's own 2 sons did not see the giving of the Torah. That is the second opinion. That's not the opinion Or HaHaim goes with. Or HaHaim is over here saying very clearly that Moshe stipulated it. He made his father-in-law promise him that he'll bring him. And he'll bring them. But the other opinion is that no, they didn't bring them. He didn't bring them. The other opinion is that they didn't see the Torah giving, which is a wild thing to think about. The giver of the Torah, his own sons, didn't receive the Torah, which is the famous saying that the children of the shoemaker go barefoot. That sometimes it's the shoemaker's children get neglected. Yeah, we forget our own children. That's an unfortunate reality of life. Sometimes you could have a big rabbi, who could be helping the whole world, and he's forgetting about his own children. That would be something very sad, but that's maybe what we see even by Moshe. Moshe was giving the Torah to the whole world, and his own sons weren't getting the Torah. They didn't get it. Again, that's the second opinion. Over here, the Or HaHaim seems to be going with the first opinion, that Yitro came before the giving of the Torah. And Yitro, and that was something that Moshe was worried about, that Yitro had to reassure him. Yitro had to say, don't worry, I'll bring them, I promise, I'll bring them. And that's what the Pasuk is saying. Pasuk is saying, Vayishma Yitro heard, Kol asher asa leinu Moshe, he heard everything that God did, that he took them out of Egypt. Now that they're out, my argument, says Yitro, my argument that we can't take the kids in because of slavery is now over. Now I have to stay true to my word that I'm going to allow the kids to reunite with their father so that they can be present for Har Sinai. Anyways, there's a lot more to talk about. But these are just a couple of ideas of Or HaHaim. Brilliant how he understands just Pasuk 1. Just the first Pasuk. So much lessons for life. We'll stop over here, my friends. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.